Hey guys, welcome back to the Animal YouTube channel. If you've been following along, I've been documenting my whole off-season that'll lead all the way up to the Olympia of 2020. So if you didn't catch the last video, you want to catch up. That was the first video of the off-season. I was 6 weeks post-Olympia, and I'm just reviewing everything regarding diet, my response, what I'm changing, and why. And I have my notes here because it's now been let's see, it's been 5 weeks since my last update, so there's been quite a few changes. And the first one being there's been a large body weight increase, just like you would expect in the off season. So that's last video you saw. And to remind you all, if you want to check out the last video, I have my full diet posted of what it was at 6 weeks, and also a pull workout on there. So if you want to look at that and compare it back to what has changed, you can do so in the description. But it's been 5 weeks now, so my body weight's come up from, I was 220 there, I'm 231 now, and still having very, very good conditioning. So looking at my posing pictures, like I still have glute lines in, still very lean. There's been a slight bit of body fat added on, but it's very, very slight. And I will keep caliper measurements and also circumference measurements throughout off season to try to give some more objective measures besides just looking at pictures or going through what I see in the mirror. And off my caliper sites, not much has really changed, but I always try to measure like my most fat sites, even if it's not like an official Jackson Pollock skin site. So I like to measure my glutes, my lower back, and also my subscap right below the scapula. The back side is where you'll see the fat come on the quickest, and definitely my lower back. So my lower back came up 2 millimeters, and I really didn't see much change anywhere else. Regarding measurements, circumference-wise, my arms came up 5/8 of an inch, and my legs came up 3/4 of an inch. I didn't see any change in my waist measurement. And how I measure my waist is flexed. Then I also measure vacuum, so I try to have two consistent measures that I look at. So this weight increase that I've seen, what I can say from that, it's been very lean, and there's been solid tissue that's added on, and it is translating over in the gym to strength. Like I have large strength increases as well. So you can kind of put all that together and say like what you're doing is working well, and you shouldn't be making a lot of changes on your program. You're progressing in strength, recovery is good, and your skin fold sites are staying low, and your circumference measurements are increased. It's kind of exactly what you want. So I had my blood work done right around the time of that last video, and all my health markers looked really, really good. So now, like at that week 6 mark, it's been coming up on week 4 into my blast phase of increasing like super supplementation. And so this has been a lot of the response I've gotten. I think I've gotten such a great response because I started out in such a lean state. I think it does make a difference. It also makes a good difference in being able to differentiate between, are you putting on lean tissue or are you putting on body fat? If you have a lot of body fat and your weight's increasing, sometimes it's harder to notice those changes. But also it's just more productive from a partitioning standpoint. So when you increase super supplements, there is definitely a preferential change in allocating those nutrients, protein, carbohydrates, to muscle. You have increase of glycogen storages, increased protein synthesis, decrease in protein turnover and protein breakdown. And then along with being lean, you're also already partitioning a lot to muscle tissue. You can stay very lean. So it has this amplified effect, I think, along with it. So that's why I'm seeing such a dramatic response that you don't see all the time if you're at maybe a higher body fat level. But anyway, food-wise, what's changed over these past weeks? I'm still doing a calorie rotation, so my 2 pull days a week, I have 700 grams of carbs. My other training days, 2 push days and a leg day, are 450 grams of carbs. Fats are right around 30 grams. I'm just rounding these numbers. I'm going to give you specifics down below. And then my low day, my off days, are 120 grams of fat and 100 grams of carbs. Protein's the same on all these days. It's right around 275 to 300 grams. So there was an initial good increase in carbohydrates on those training days. And I've pretty much been on that for a few weeks because I just keep progressing and keep adding on body weight every week. And it's been about, I would say like a 1% change or so per week, which is faster than what you want probably for someone at my level. But you just look at pictures, you look at measurements, and it's a good quality size you're adding on, well, just keep it going. You don't need to go off some strict number if you're seeing the change that you want. But anyway, with those food increases, like appetite's still really good, digestion's good, I'm not hungry throughout the day, I'm hungry right before meals, which is pretty much what you want, and there is a large amount allocated around training for like the carbohydrates. Also, some other things that I've been monitoring weekly since having blood work done is blood pressure, because you have, for anyone that's a bodybuilder and you're going to carry a substantial amount of size and be a heavier body weight, and using enhancing supplements or PEDs, you're going to be it's a potential you can raise your blood pressure, and blood pressure is a silent killer and it's so damaging. So I highly recommend, like, if you're pursuing bodybuilding, monitor your blood pressure once a week. Like, I get a Life Source extra large cuff off blood pressure monitor off Amazon for $100. Check it once a week. My blood pressure was 108/67. And then I can also monitor weekly my resting heart rate too. So I'm usually right around 60, 62 resting heart rate. And it's another variable to track too for if you're starting to get into a really fatigued state from training and starting to get into like an overreaching state, building a lot of fatigue, usually your morning resting heart rate will start increasing. So it can kind of be an indicator if maybe you have a possible deload that you need to be coming up or taking some extra rest days. But that's not a hard stop though, because I had one morning that my heart rate was up at 70, but I got up super early for a client. I was having some stress anxiety because my guy was competing, so it's like, you can't go off one day if overall all your other variables are going really well. Another one is blood glucose. So for blood glucose, if you're a natural competitor, get your A1C checked on your normal blood work, but for someone that's an enhanced bodybuilder, monitoring blood glucose is important, especially increasing body weight, utilizing certain substances, and then also using a high amount of carbohydrate in food. Monitor your blood glucose. It's just another good healthy, acute thing that we can monitor very easily. And a big thing that causes a lot of disease states are these constant inflammatory states that we're in, and high blood glucose can lead to a more inflammatory state. So good thing to monitor. But, with some other things that have changed too is I got a new bed. So you sleep, most, like what they say, a third of your life is spin your bed. I'm trying to really keep up on the rehabilitative and prehab side of things, because over these past 5 weeks, like, I start getting really beat up. And you can see I have my KT tape on because I just went to a rehab session today. And doing this preventative stuff, working with chiropractors and working with massage therapists, it all has to be part of it to keep you going, because we're just not meant to just get stronger and stronger and stronger, and your connective tissue and your joints are going to take a beating, especially, and a lot of it's like day-to-day life. Like, I spend the time on a computer, on my phone, I'm all internally rotated and thoracically flexed, so just the wear and tear of things will accumulate, and with how I train, it can just accumulate to where you start breaking. And so a big part of what I've been doing is trying to be better about keeping chiropractic work once a week at least, and then some type of active release, Graston therapy work, new fit work 1 to 2 times per week. What's been my main issue of like gauging if I need a deload has been trying to restore connective tissue. So we'll get into training, but I'll explain it when I get there. Other things that have changed is that Animal Pump came out, and that that wasn't in the last video. So now I have a huge supply of Animal Pump, and been able to utilize that during training and reduce some caffeine intake. And my typical approach to where I get the most out of using it pre-workout is 60 minutes before training, 60 to 90 minutes, I'll have my pre-workout meal, which is usually it's 100 grams of cream of rice from Pride Foods. I'll do 3 rice cakes, and then 50 gram powder weight of Animal Whey. With that meal, I'll have a cup of coffee. And I'll do the coffee then, because caffeine has an active life of 2 to 9 hours, which can be extended for a while. And caffeine doesn't have a good performance benefit, so there is an aid to having it while you train. But if you have it right before you train, a lot of that times it won't be working until you're farther into your training. So that's why I like having the timing with my pre-workout meal. Then with the pump itself, I'll have that on the way to the gym, which is like about 20 minutes before the gym, and that's when I feel like I get the best timing of utilizing caffeine, then also utilizing Animal Pump. And I do think the alpha GPC, the huperzine, it enhances the effects of your caffeine. So you won't need as much caffeine, you'll get more out of it. But that's how I set up at least the timing for those. Everything's been going great otherwise, so just keep progressing along. I don't have any substantial changes for the plan coming up, so my macros are set, weight's progressing, size is increasing, so I'm just going to keep riding out this phase. Again, I'll probably have blood work done in another 2 weeks to see where I'm at, make sure all health parameters are good, and if I need to adjust anything on my stack, health-wise or PED-wise, to account for anything that I'm seeing in my labs. So today for me is a push day. So going into push day has been more of a troublesome area for me because I've had these accumulations of elbow issues, which a lot of it being like my golfer's elbow, which I don't play golf, but all it means is like an acute inflammation of the tendons of the wrist flexors. And so a lot of times, like in your skull crusher position, doing that wrist flexion can be a lot of the issues. A lot of my issues are derived from lack of scapular mobility. And so when I get into a spot where I'm really internally rotated, like a skull crusher or an overhead press, I'm getting forced into that position. And then a lot of the joints and tendons and ligaments are taking the brunt of that. And then over time, it just accumulates. Like you start getting little niggles and little aches, and you just keep working through it until all of a sudden you can't do that movement. So that's kind of what's happened. So I've had to remove skull crushers, remove a lot of overhead tricep extension work. And so part of what that's in my first part of my workout is rehab work that I've gotten as homework from my my tissue guys. So just going through some foam rolling, releasing specific tissues with the foam roller prior to training. You don't want it to be over the top for rolling out muscles because you can actually have a decrease in performance. So for mine, it's just rolling out my lats, rolling out right around my rhomboids, then also going through some active motion for internal, external rotation of the shoulder, elevation, depression of the scapula, just trying to get the scapula to really move around, open up. And then I'll do some face pulls with the band to get my traps activated, because a lot of those pressing positions you need to really form a good stable base. Then also going through a overhead kettlebell press, working into that internal rotation, then pressing up into the external rotation. So that's been part of my warm-up, my prehab and rehab work that I start with on all my upper body days. So that same routine you're seeing is what I've continued to do. So leading into push day, I start with a seated dumbbell lateral, which I like doing. I like doing seated. I was doing them standing, but I just wanted to really stabilize the scapula more, the torso more, make myself really strict to where I'm really only moving at the shoulder joint. And you see with my form that I do internally rotate the arm a little bit before I lead up into the contraction to really try to make sure I'm emphasizing the side delt. If you're rotating your arms up, you can always look from the side. Whatever delt head is at the very, very top is typically the one that's getting worked. So that move, I'll stay within about 10 to 15 reps is the goal, 3 sets. So I hit a weight, so I got up to 55s, I did 13 reps. I dropped down to the 50s and hit 14 reps. Then I dropped to the 45s and I end up getting 16 reps for that set. All sets are taken to pretty much failure on those. So I'm starting with the lateral raise because it's my primary movement that I really want to improve on is in my lateral delt head, and it's not very taxing, so I can go in my pressing and it doesn't affect it either. My next move was a reverse band 30-degree incline press on the Smith machine, and I like using the reverse band hooking up from the top because it does because the normal strength curve for the bench press is that it's harder off the bottom, and then as you get to the top, it's easier. It's just like doing a partial bench press. Like you could load a lot of weight on, do it. So hooking the band on makes it get harder as you're pressing the weight up, and so just the resistance curve helps to match the strength curve more, so you get more tension throughout a fuller range of motion with using the reverse band. So on this one, I work up trying to hit like a set of, I put on 8 to 10, but I end up blowing away my last movement. So I added 10 pounds to the bar, and I ended up getting like an extra 2 reps. So I did 13 reps, which, if you have a set rep range, it's more important to just putting the effort forth. If you get an extra rep or 2, it's not like 10 reps is the golden ticket. There's a broad spectrum for these reps, so just put effort forth. You go over and overshoot it, that's okay. Just know for next time I have my logbook, I'll know to increase my load even more. I still decreased the load, but I didn't take as much off as I did last time for my back off set, and then I hit like 14 reps. So moving on from there, I went to a hammer strength flat chest press, and just worked my way up. I hit a set of 8 and did a back off set and hit a set of 9. So staying within the rep range that I'm actually intended to, which is like 8 to 12 for that movement. For the order of these, having an incline press first should always be primary. And for me wanting to improve shoulders development, that is a good way to structure your training. And then I go back into a shoulder press. So I do a hammer strength shoulder press, and same rep pattern. I'm shooting for like 8 to 12 reps on my top set, and then backing off in weight and hitting something a little bit higher reps. And I do feel better doing a little higher rep range on overhead pressing, probably because of my lack of scapular mobility and poor internal rotation. So staying in a higher rep range until I can really work through a lot of this scapular mobility and improve it, it's just a safer way for me to train for now. After doing those compound moves, I move into my isolation work, and going back in kind of the same order that I did on my compound lift. So I go back to doing a pec deck fly first, and I work in a higher rep range on my isolation. So I'll try to hit 15 to 20 reps on my first set of pec deck fly, and I'll do 2 more sets, and I just let the reps drop down just due to the previous sets causing fatigue. From there, I move back into my delt movement, and I start with a delt movement where I can really get the muscle into the shortened phase. So I'm going to do a prone dumbbell Y raise, and the Y raise is good because a lot with laterals you just go up to parallel. The actual delt can move all the way up, past 90 degrees all the way up to 180 degrees, which you can nearly hit that with that Y lateral raise, and you don't feel any binding in the shoulder either. It's going to hit a little bit of front delt and inside delt. And then also, it's great for working on thoracic extension, which I have an issue with. We're always in thoracic flexion, looking at our phones, bent over. So it's a good way to get some good thoracic extension, scapular depression, but also get the delt in the shortened phase, so you can get a really good hard contraction in the delt, establish that mind-muscle connection, and before moving on to my next move. But for this move, I'll I did 2 sets, and 15 to 20 reps is the goal, staying within that. So my next move, I go to a single arm cable lateral. With cables, it's great because depending on where you're standing, you can load the range of motion in different spots. So with the cable lateral, right as you start coming up is when you get maximal tension. So you're kind of loading in the mid-range, which is like one of the stronger ranges to load. So you go from this shortened position, we have a really good contraction, make a good mind-muscle connection, then move into a cable lateral that can load in the stronger position. You have that connection established, so you can really work the delt hard doing it that way. And I'll do 4 sets there. Goal for rep ranges will be 10 to 20. So I'll start high rep with the weight and just let the reps drop down with each set that I'm doing. The final movement is I go into my tricep work from there. And for tricep work is what I have modified more because of my elbow issues and also because of my wrist flexor issue too. So skull crushers are out right now. That's an issue, a movement that I just have constant problems with. So I'll do a prime handle push down. And I like using these prime grips because I can position them mechanically in a great spot to where I can really line up my shoulder, elbows, and wrists well. And also it's wide enough to really get into that full lockout. With a normal rope, you're so internally rotated and it's hard to truly get a good lockout in a mechanically strong position to even do so. So I feel like it can really open up wide and get a good, great full elbow extension, flexion movement going with that. And so what I did is I supersetted it with body weight dips, which normally I do an overhead extension. That's just out now, so I figure if I pre-fatigue my triceps, can go into a body weight dip. I won't need weight because I'll already be fatigued, but also can work the tricep, back and shoulder extension and hit some different areas of the tricep. And I'll get some secondary work in for the chest and shoulders and get those stretched since they've been fully pumped full of blood. And that was it for the workout. That rounded out my push day. So just to review, start with side delts because that's my focus. Hit my 3 compound moves for chest, shoulder, and then moved into isolation work for chest, side delts, and triceps. And that rounded out the day. So overall, I mean, it's a great session. I can get an excellent contraction with muscles, everything gets really pumped, I can activate everything well. So if you all want to see the whole workout and give it a try, I have it posted below as well. So please check it out, guys. Again, my whole diet's posted below. Ask me any questions you want about any of this stuff, guys. Post it below, I'll answer it on the next video. Thanks for watching, always appreciate it, and we'll talk to you next time.